Welcome everyone to episode 100 of the Send Nutrition Podcast. We made it, Peter.
Bryan, that sounded like I was in the cheap seats at one of the footy games.
Well, I just borrowed some effects there, but I didn't get the gin glass being poured.
Well,
yet.
It's episode 100, yeah?
Yeah, and we made it.
I think we've had about 100 bottles of gin in the last 3 months.
And that's one of the side things we might discuss on this episode, but the title of this one will be Why Sound Nutrition is Such a Hard Sell, what we have learnt in 100 episodes. And we want to give you guys an insight of just the experience we have caught or the industry observations we made through this time of the podcast and with the many clients we interact. And I'm sure Peter has a number of points we want to cover across on this.
Yeah, this will be like sort of going back in time. So like hopefully it doesn't go for too long, this episode. But over the last 9 years, which is how long the company's been around now, we've sort of learnt a lot, but pivoted a lot as well. So as soon as we get some new info, science comes out, whether we have to change ingredients or substitute ingredients or, add ingredients, we're very sort of in front and got our, like ahead rather than just, resting on our laurels and saying, oh, well, we've done this, it's worked. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But that's where you get left behind a little bit and you stop innovating. Yeah,
100%, Peter. It kind of mirrors the advancement of human nutrition. And in animal nutrition, it's no difference, with that whole center of that gut microbiome being the reason why nutrition has really come to the forefront and its effects on the whole body of the horse. And Peter and I keep that advancement in knowledge, and if we find something that can work better and is more efficient within the horse's body, we are going to explore this and then hopefully bring it to the general market.
Yeah, it's letting that person, be aware that there might be a different way, whether it's more cost effective or not, a healthier way, to get the awareness out there. And I think we're pretty privileged to have this podcast where we can reach a lot of people. I think we're over 50,000 sort of listeners now.
Nearly up 60, yeah.
60. So, and this is, going to America, sort of places in Europe as well. And we sort of pinch ourselves and go, well, we've come a long way, but it's actually interesting stuff. It's not like we do it because like we have to do it. We want to do it because we're learning as we're researching as well.
Yeah, we're trying to give everyone an insight into what we're thinking, make the best quality products for the market and for our own horses as well. And it seems like a long time, Pete, since the days in Darra where we were in a little room. We had to ask our workers to turn the forklifts off because you could hear the beeps of the reversing, and the sound quality back then wasn't like this. But we're just like really happy and privileged, as Peter said, to be here 100 episodes later, and the demand for the knowledge, and it's all coming from you guys as feedback, like from the Send users group. It's been fantastic support. People reach out, they look forward to the episodes, and as long as you can take one new piece of information away from it that helps your horse, this is our aim.
Yeah, and I think people don't like getting sort of told what to do. What we try to do is we try to explain and educate them and then leave that decision up to them, whether they want to go out and actually do something about it or whether, they're happy just to continue in what they're doing.
Yeah, and probably point one in that what we have learnt in all this time is every horse is an individual. They all have different backgrounds, genetics. So we're giving you the guidelines to see what suits your environment and your systems, and then trying to make it the best nutrient profile that you can attain to this. And I think Peter and I discussed before this podcast, horses are not a cheap animal to keep, and sometimes when you're looking at diets and nutrition, you need the best quality ingredients, and this can come at a cost too.
Yeah, I look at more as an investment. Obviously, as you mentioned, Bryan, horses are not cheap to keep or maintain. And look, they all pretty much cost the same to feed, give and take, a couple of dollars here and there. Like the problem is when they get sick, like that's when it becomes sort of really expensive. And where we come across as a company, we're more about prevention rather than, trying to fix it once it's broken. We're happy to help where we can, but it's a lot harder to fix something when it's broken than actually to prevent that from happening. And look, everyone gets old, we're all going to get sick and sort of, go to the next world eventually. But it's more about the quality of life, I think, that you have, and also the quality of life for your animal. There's nothing, more heart-wrenching than seeing your animal in pain or limping, colic, God forbid anything worse. So nutrition does play a big role in that prevention. And I think that's why we wanted to do the why sound nutrition is such a hard sell for our 100, because this is exactly what we stand for. And people, it's expensive, or it's this and it's that. And we've heard it probably a billion times. But once we actually sit down and explain it, well, you don't need this, you don't need that, you only need this. And, the feed's so small, we've had to repeat ourselves so many times. It's not frustrating, but I think we just got to do it one by one. And, when one person sees the results and are happy, they're going to tell their friends and family. And hopefully the word spreads that way as well as obviously through this podcast.
Yeah, 100%, Peter. And I think this is the perfect segue to have our first recorded review played on the podcast. And this has come from Stephanie Stephen, who is a Sen ambassador. She owns Henstep Thoroughbreds, which is also a boutique operation that offers high quality thoroughbred agistment preparations and sales services. And Stephanie is a great supporter of Sen, loves to try to educate anyone that will listen about the products. And here is her review, and we greatly appreciate it.
Hi, Bryan and Peter. Congratulations on the 100th episode of the Sen Nutrition Podcast. I've been feeding Sen for over 2 years now, and just wanted to say thank you for the incredible products you've created. I use your grain-free complete as the base for all my hard feeds, except for the good doers who get the CF50, and every horse also gets the Sen oil. I use the lupin pellet and the supplement range for horses that are in any type of work, such as sales preparations or schooling. I combine the quality protein and amino acids from the lupin pellet with the NO3 boost and gamma formula to finish off top line and muscle development, and the results are phenomenal.
Thanks so much, Stephanie, for that submission. And as you can see, Steph knows our products inside and out. The results she achieves through Henstep Thoroughbred, her business, have been amazing. We love seeing them, and I will leave a link to her services in our show notes as well if you want to further check out what Steph does. And so moving along in this episode, as you guys know, we do a lot of reading of literature and research to try and progress our knowledge every day in all things horses. And I come across words of adapting how to summarize nutrition for horses. And this line I'll repeat because I've said it on a previous podcast: the feeding choices we make for our horses either puts them one step closer to health or one step closer to disease. And I got goosebumps after I first heard this, because it rings true so many times per week when you see the issues and conditions arising in horses from improper nutrition. And you can even simplify this down to two major effects that if you don't get nutrition right, what can happen. So predisposing a horse to developing a disease, or not allowing that horse to reach its potential ability, which we all want from our horse.
Yeah, that's well summarised. And look, 9 times out of 10 of the phone calls that we get are people who have a problem with their horse. And that's not a bad thing, because, we're there ready to help them. But it's much easier when you can prevent that problem from happening. And it's more with the younger horses too. It's not like everyone's got a 28-year-old, retired paddock ornament that's really sick. I mean, look, a lot of those horses are in actually really good nick, like especially when they're on the Sen program. So those horses have less problems than the younger horses that are getting 6-7 kilograms of grain, loaded up to their eyeballs.
Yeah, it just goes against that normal physiology. We find that a lot of newer horse owners lean on the vets and think the vet is part of looking after a horse, when in fact vets should only be used in that acute instance. And the way that nutrition plays a part in those chronic illnesses is lowering those vet visits, because you've got the foundations right. Here at Sen, we're not anti-vet. Like, we love all the vets. We like the vets that like to take a whole holistic view of the animal, not just treating the symptoms. They want to get to the root cause, and we really work with them, and it actually steps the horse one step closer to preventing any further diseases occurring.
It's very well summarised, and just my 2 cents onto that point too, Bryan. So nutrition and supplementation isn't a scam, as some people might think. It's actual science. The problem is that not too many people are actually aware of it, including vets, and that's the problem, because when they go and do their education, I think it might be 1 or 2
units. I think it's 1 or 2 months.
Yeah, 1 or 2 months that they'll do in actual nutrition. So, the vet probably isn't the best person to be getting nutritional advice from, even though they're very trained in their skills. But as Bryan said, we're trying to get to the root cause of the problem rather than just putting a Band-Aid on a cut that actually needs stitches.
Yeah, and I think the simplest example of all this that Peter and I see, and it's in a lot of performance stables, is the ulcer medication use.
Yeah, 100%, Bryan. It's rife. And look, I don't know sort of how it started or sort of, but it's most people that we speak to either are on the medication, have used the medication, or either or. And
what we're trying to do is educate these stables or these trainers to help lower the risk or lower the incidence of ulcers in the stable without resorting to the medication first. And that's all about those foundations, and you'll find those in previous episodes. But that was one, I think, even right at the very start, Peter, when we started SAN and we started visiting these new stables, you'll see the syringes and that all around the stables, and you're like, what is going on? There's more of this than actual feed, like in the feed room.
And look, we are getting a lot more vets sort of coming on board that are happy, obviously, to work with us because they see that our products actually help. More so, with the gut health products. Obviously, we've got we've got a joint product as well. And look, Bryan, just further on, further note onto the vet sort of topic that you said, and it's including physicians as well. So physicians and vets, they're trained in dealing with disease and not promoting health. So it's important to work with your vet, obviously, when you suspect there's a problem, but you got to try to get to the root cause of the problem. So now you're going to know exactly what the root cause is. So you can work either with your vet or work with a nutrition company like us. It might be as simple as a nutrient deficiency, why your horse's hooves are really brittle or they're not growing out. So, you can't really get an injection for poor hooves, but we know that that's a vitamin mineral deficiency, might be omega-3 as well. There might be a bit of biotin that's missing. And that's something where we can work alongside with the vets to try to correct any vitamin mineral deficiencies any horses may have.
Yeah, 100% agree, Peter. I think in the time Centre's been around and evolved, what has hit home to me and the way to think about the horse as a whole and not just separate body systems. Like you look at the gut environment of the horse, the gut-brain axis, all that connection, they're both connected with their hormone production, and it's working in multiple body systems and not going down the traditional Western medicine route. We're just treating the symptoms of one part body system, which can cause side effects in another part of the body. You're taking a whole holistic view, and I think we would not be around if what we're trying to achieve wasn't working.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this previously about the the gut-brain sort of connection, through the vagus nerve. And for maybe our new listeners, I'll repeat myself again. So there's 9 impulses that are sent from the gut to the brain, and only 1 impulse that's sent from the brain to the gut. So if you've got an animal that's got sort of psychological problems, it's very irate, sort of on the toe, by giving it magnesium or giving it a calming supplement, once again, you're not getting to the root cause of the problem. Most likely, the problem is in its gut, because 9 messages are sent from the gut to the brain. So that's the same for immune system and immune health. 70% of the horse's immune system's in its guts as well. So if you don't have the right microbes, not enough good bacteria, too much bad bacteria, it's at a couple of rounds of antibiotics, that gut health is going to be not in the right proportion, if I can call it that. So that needs to get fixed. If you just leave it as it is, and then you're just going to pile down 6-7 kilograms of grain down that stomach, it's probably going to take it 15 years to recover if it's still alive in 15 years. So that's where, if we have antibiotics, the doctor always says, well, make sure you take like an Inner Health Plus, with your antibiotics, or, maybe try to buy probiotics. So they know that the antibiotics, knocking out a lot of the bad stuff, but it's knocking out a lot of the good stuff. So the good stuff that you lose, you need to replace. And that's why we've got a product like the Extra Balance, obviously, to help, replace and obviously make that gut health a lot stronger.
Yeah, and furthermore, onto that, if there is antibiotic use, we do use a strain of probiotic called Saccharomyces boulardii, and this is resistant to being killed off by the antibiotic. So we're trying to make the best effective product for that all-round general digestive health in any situation. And funny you say that, Peter, with us being prescribed probiotics after antibiotic use, that same strain, Saccharomyces boulardii, is available at your chemist. It's a little bit harder to find because sometimes it's behind the counter for some unknown reason, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But it is truly an effective way to ensure your digestive health is at its strongest post medication use.
Yeah, that's very well said, and that's what I said earlier. Like we weren't using this Boulardii strain, I think 2, 3, 4 years ago, where we've run into it. So there's a lot of research. I think it's 35 years of research in human health on the Belati. For any travelers out there, if you're going to go anywhere to any sort of third world countries and your stomach's not the strongest, take it with you. It will knock diarrhea on the head pretty quickly if you God forbid you get sick. But it all does help, and that's where, like with advancement, we sort of jump on the bandwagon pretty quickly, and other companies just sort of stay and do what they think is right. But I don't think we're going to get left behind. Put it that way.
No, 100%. We strive for the best quality products, the reasoning behind feeding the horse, and it's all to do with the physiology and making it the most efficient way to fuel their body.
I think, Bryan, the hardest part for us is obviously in 100 episodes and with the hundreds, if not thousands, of people that we've spoken to, is sometimes if the horse ownership has been generational from granddad to dad to son and then their kids as well. It's almost like changing religions. It's like, well, we've done it for 4 generations. It's worked, and the horses are good, but then they've got ulcers, and they've got colic. So it's very hard to go, hey, look, like this is a new way of feeding. This is the latest science. And then you're going up against, but we've done this for like 50 years and 60 years. So it's not for everyone, and everyone sort of comes around at the right time. And we're not here to jam our products down people's throats. We just want to show you what the research says, what the latest science is, why our products are different, why high fiber is important, why high fat's good, why grain is good in small amounts, but not to every horse.
Yeah, it's education. It's not overloading the body with unnecessary ingredients like an abundance of grain over grain over grain. We're here to get that nutrient profile in its best levels to suit the horse in its environment. And that takes a little bit of time with those diet analysis, but we want to arm the horse owner with the right tools, because they're going to talk to their friends to help them if they have any issues. And it's just a flow-on effect. And the word of mouth at Sen has been its strongest growing point. And we have key players in every industry that believe in the product, and we're so happy and appreciative of all their support and all the ambassadors.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts there, Bryan. The biggest thing I've sort of picked up probably in 100 episodes or 99 episodes plus this one being the 100th is that a lot of the cases of people that we've spoken to have a nutrient deficiency, and whether that's minerals, whether that's vitamins, whether it's prebiotics. And I'd like to add too that poor nutrition basically has 2 major effects. So one, what you're doing is if your horse is nutrient deficient, is you're predisposing the horse to developing disease. And the other is to keep them from reaching their optimum potential. And that could be from poor coat health to poor hooves, in infection resistance, reproduction, and even, reaching their athletic potential, which obviously a lot of our competition trainers do. And what I want to say is that with feeding vitamins and minerals, people think, oh, well, look, they don't need it because they look really good. But is it worth the risk? Just because it's looking good on the outside, how do you know whether it's healthy on the inside? And that horse might be deficient in whatever micronutrient it might be. It's going and performing, trying its best. It's like having a handbrake on a horse. If you're deficient in any nutrients or vitamins, the horse cannot generate energy as well. The mitochondria isn't working as efficiently. So it's not worth not having that horse at its optimal health, especially if you're competing in high stakes events.
Yeah, and it mirrors human science as well. The athletes at the AIS, they're on the forefront of supplementation. They're always feeding for a reason, to get optimal performance in their chosen field. And that's why for a horse in different disciplines, there are different needs that need to be adjusted. But overall, they all play a role in that energy production.
Yeah, I think we're one of the only companies like trying to promote high fiber, high fat. I mean, everyone's got, a different color bag and it all looks great. But end of the day, if you look at the ingredients, all the ingredients are pretty much the same with all the other companies. And we're happy sort of to run our own race. And, it's not for everyone, as I mentioned previously, but we do get the results. And sort of slowly, I think the industry is changing. There weren't too many people feeding healthy omega-3 oils when we started. Everyone was, jumped, all over the vegetable oils. And we can, along with Bryan, we can take sort of credit for changing that, that aspect, or bringing that to light, that the vegetable oils are not, what everyone thinks they are.
Yeah, 100%. And it's for the betterment of the horse overall in Australia. the mantra was, just go down to Woolworths, grab the cheapest oil you can get, a vegetable oil. It's a bit of a misnomer, which is a false term, that a vegetable oil is not really vegetables. Like, they're trying to promote that as health when many are chemically extracted, many are very high in omega-6, and over time that promotes inflammation in the body. And it's actually the reverse of what a horse naturally eats in the grass, which is high in omega-3. So there's always a reason why we feed a certain nutrient, and that is just one example. The other example is all our feed products are Australian made from Australian farmers, which we pride ourselves on that freshness. But in saying that, our ingredient lists aren't 20 ingredients long, filled with fillers and other binding agents. So we have the technology to have that raw ingredient in a pellet form. Many companies have to use binders that are grain-based. They can't say that it's fully grain-free, like Mill Run is a grain. We don't use any of this, and we're just happy that we don't need to rely on outside countries for those ingredients, that we can really support what is grown in Australia.
Look, we've been getting a lot of feedback as well from some new customers that have just sort of reached out to us that their current sort of feed supplies, the consistency is not what it was, and it sort of changes every bag that they get. And it is allowable in industry. Obviously, if you're if you got 8 ingredients and 3 are not seasonal, you can replace those 3 ingredients with a seasonal ingredient. And if that's going to bump the starch up another 5-10%, well, that's just too bad. So that's why I think the feeds do change. Like, the more ingredients you have in them, the harder it is to keep the same ingredients throughout the whole year. We've only got 2 ingredients. You don't need to fluff it up. You don't need to extend it out. When you believe in high fiber, you don't need 8-10 different ingredients.
Yeah, and those 2 base ingredients stay the same all year round. We have sufficient supply. They're not being stored in warehouses for months. And basically the way Sen grows, it's manufactured fresh to order. They're going direct to either the farm or the distributor. And you guys our aim is to try and keep it as the most fresh product. But we're seeing this in the results as well. The more people reaching out, seeing results of friends, wanting to know how to transition to this nutrient profile, it's just a big flow-on effect, and the horse is benefiting at the end of the day.
And one way, Bryan, I'll give our listeners a bit of a tip here. Like, one way to know whether our feed is actually healthy or not. Do you know what it is? I'll tell you, because it's a long pause. You leave it out in your feed shed and let the rats get around it, and they will not eat a pellet. We're getting that feedback like years and years and years. And even today, I spoke to a customer. She said, I'm like a new customer that's jumped on board, and she said, I can't believe that the rats will not eat your feed. They just don't want. And they've got 3 cats there that used to, couldn't keep up with the rats. I mean, like, those cats are going on retirement, I think.
I think the rats are on a sugar high as well. But yeah.
So that's just a little side note. And also too, one thing I'll add is, even with the NRC, and there's different websites that help you sort of balance diets in Australia. If they're using the NRC guidelines, our listeners need to know that those published requirements are only minimums, and that apply to horses that are not under any stress from performance, illness, or any environmental issues as well. So you might get all the green ticks on those platforms, but if your horse is looking crap, you got to look into it, that there's maybe something more going on. Yeah,
and it could be specific ingredients not working properly within the horse, like the soys, or a reaction to lucerne or something in that nature. But I think in these 100 episodes, what we have learned and what we have developed is vitamin C has been playing a huge role in helping sort of problem horses or older horses get back to their best health. And it's actually quite surprised Peter and I, because 4 or 5 years ago, we thought a horse, yes, it does create its own vitamin C in the liver at sufficient amounts, but that's a horse that is young and not stressed.
Yeah, 100%. So we've really sort of backflipped in it, and obviously we've got our sodium ascorbate product, which is a pH neutral vitamin C, especially with the older horses. So as I said, like, as they get older, they can produce less and less, and then obviously you've still got the environment, you've got the illnesses possibly that they're carrying, and they physically cannot produce enough. And for a very simple product, we've had a lot of horses bounce back, sort of turn around. in a very quick way, because purely we're just correcting a deficiency that horse might have had for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's more prominent with the older horses, but also in terms of the performance horses. If your horses is, for endurance exercise, possibly every day, like you're going on 80 kilometer, 160 kilometer performance events, you can't tell me that horse is going to produce enough vitamin C to last at 160 kilometers. Like, I hope someone can prove me wrong, but I'll, for a good bottle of gin, all right, I'll bet someone. but like, it's just like, I think it's logical, but then no one really thinks about it. So, for the sake of $25, whatever it costs, just to supplement that horse back, it might be 7 days or 14 days to get it back to where it was. You're naturally improving its immune system health, so it's going to be less prone to viral infections, bacterial infections. Vitamin C is there for a reason, that it gets made naturally. So if it wasn't needed, then it wouldn't be made naturally by the horse.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of listeners know that vitamin E is really essential as an antioxidant, but vitamin C is just as powerful antioxidant for performance horses. Like, it prevents damage to body tissues under the threat of that oxidative stress or the free radicals. As Peter mentioned, the immune system, with helping protect from the bacteria, viruses, or other organisms. But overall, that antioxidant effect is really good and beneficial for all performance horses.
Yeah, and even with our supplements, Bryan, it's not that we're trying to, jam every supplement down the caller's throat or whoever wants to do like a diet analysis. The foundation needs to be right first. The supplements are only recommended to a horse that actually needs a supplement, whether it's for gut health, whether it's for joint health, whether it's vitamin C because we think that it's deficient. So, and it's not a supplement that we want the horse to be on for the rest of its life. If there's a specific case, it might need to be, like if it's working, but we don't want it to be, like using for eternity. If we can get the diet balanced and all the nutrients are in the right place, then the body naturally has time to heal itself and just maintain good health.
Yeah, no, 100% agree, Pete. The way supplementation is, you're trying to get your horse to achieve its potential or maximum ability. And if the supplements have an effect on those body systems that are being overworked and need that support, you're going to keep that horse a step ahead of the competition that are not trying to support those body systems.
Yeah, and the easiest way to give our listeners an example is if you look at a horse in a wild, a lot of those horses never get sick. They never colic. They never get ulcers. They'll eat the pasture. They'll eat bark. They'll eat whatever they need, to correct any deficiencies that they might have. But those horses in the wild, they're not locked up in a box for 23 hours a day. They're not asked to train, to perform, to have the rigors of being domesticated basically as well. So that's where the supplementation is more paramount, because you're taking an animal out of the wild, out of a natural environment, and you're domesticating it. And look, we can try to replicate obviously that domestication with ad lib hay, which is what we always sort of pride ourselves on and try to get through every horse owner's mind, that the easiest way to prevent boredom, ulcers, all sorts of illnesses is to give them unlimited pasture or hay. It's very simple. It's very cost effective. You're going to limit the use of supplements, ulcer medications, everything else. So to my point, the horses in a wild, they're absolutely healthy because they don't have any stress in their lives. I mean, the only stress they might have is if another horse wants to play and they jump and kick and what so forth, and then it might just go back to trickle feeding the grass. So those horses will live naturally, die naturally, without any illnesses most likely as well.
Yeah, it's all depending on their genetic makeup of their resilience. But as we've touched on, many behavior experts on the podcast, it is a flight animal. They see humans as a predator because our eyes are in the front of our head. They've got theirs on the side because they're always looking in the wild for any predators. So it's even more important to understand these natural traits that a horse has and creating an environment that helps them feel safe, but also reflecting good behavior back to them, which they are able to pick up more naturally.
Like 2 cents from my end, Bryan, is that I picked up probably pretty early in the piece when we started doing the podcast that a lot of people weren't aware, but really should be aware, is that horses are vegetarians. So what that means is they're fiber fermenters. When they eat fiber, that goes and creates sugar, but it's a healthy sugar that they can actually put condition on, and that's a much healthier way of putting condition on than loading them with grain and sort of grain byproducts. So I haven't yet had anyone tell me that feeding a broodmare that's in foal 6 kilograms of grain is going to be of a lot of benefit to that mare. But possibly, a performance horse that needs the extra grain, but I don't think we need to go to 6 kilograms. So it's very sort of smoke and mirrors, where I think for the owner outside, like, they're getting told all this information by 20 different companies, and they struggle sort of who to believe. But at the end of the day, you got to look at, well, if a horse is a vegetarian and it ferments fiber, it needs fiber in its diet. It can use fat as energy, so it needs fat in its diet. If you're doing performance, you need a bit of grain. We all agree on that. But having the grain, having the diet 98% grain and, no fiber, no fat, well, is someone taking the mickey out of you, or are they doing it just to try to get volume selling with their product? And, we're in business as well. We want to sell products, but we're not going to jam it down people's throat. You got to make that decision is, well, do you want your horse, on the grain and then have the symptoms down the track, or do you want to feed it healthier from a younger age and possibly limit any of those symptoms, appearing?
Yeah, 100%, Peter. And furthermore to that, what we have seen a lot in the industry was the reverse of high hard feeds and low roughage. And I think the tide is changing, that horse owners are recognizing that high roughage volume is the first part of every foundation diet, and don't lean on that high hard feed volume. And that's gonna benefit the physiology of the horse, especially.
Well, if you look at some of the feedbacks as well on the back, they might have 6 kilograms of the hard feed, but then it's still got, well, make sure you feed 1.5% of the horse's body weight in hay, which might be another 6 kilograms. And I haven't seen too many horses that are eating 12, 13 kilograms, of hay and hard feeds. So it's almost impossible. As we know, whether it's hay or roughage, it's more natural, and we want to limit the amount of hard feed that users feed, because the foundation of the calories should be coming from grass or from hay.
Yeah, 100% echo that, Pete. So I think this brings this 100th episode to a close. Peter and I would love to thank all our supporters, all the listeners, anyone that's taken time out to review Sen as a company or our products. We really appreciate all the feedback. If you haven't left a review on the podcast app, so Spotify or Apple, or your chosen one, please hit the 5-star rating and leave a review. It just helps the exposure of the podcast. Peter, was there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, so just some parting words from my end. I'd like to thank everyone as well, obviously, for the support over the 9 years. We're not going anywhere, so we've got a couple of products that we're going to be launching this year as well. One upgrade to a product and then another new product as well. So we won't let the cat out of bag just yet. But if your horse is looking $1 million and you're on a Sen feed and everything's going great, don't forget about yourself as well. So obviously we've got the human range. There's only one product there with the collagen, and once again it's the same theory where we're not eating the chicken skins, we're not eating the tripe, we're not eating the organ meats, and we stop producing collagen. I think every decade it's about 10% or something, Bryan.
Yeah.
So everyone's deficient, and like we've noticed in the office since we've sort of jumped on it, even with the whole staff, and all the girls are getting better nails and hair. My hair's not growing back, but my skin's pretty good. So we won't ask for miracles, but look, everyone's deficient in it. So if your horse is looking $1 million, listen to the podcast on the collagen. It's very informative. It's probably one of our best selling products at the moment, and a lot of the riders, especially who have fallen off horses, had injuries before, had operations, are getting really, really, really good success with that collagen product,
including Guy McLean.
Yeah.
And I'll leave a link to that episode in the show notes. And we ran a competition on the Sen users group, which is a huge activity of Sen supporters, users, trying to help everyone achieve their horse goals. And we selected one of the reviews that was submitted by Chloe Hampton, and I'll play this now. We really appreciate all your support, Chloe. This is a winner, and we'll be in contact with you.
Hi guys, congratulations on the 100th episode of the Sen podcast. I started feeding the Sen range probably roughly about 2 years ago now, when I first seen a post that Ellie made from Ellie Rose Equestrian, and that's when I started to feed the Sen oil, and then after seeing results from that, I thought I'd give some of the other products from the Sen range a go, and now both my standardbred and my thoroughbred are on a full Sen diet, and they both are just looking so healthy and so shiny, and it's all thanks to Sen. Thanks again, and congratulations.
Thanks so much, Chloe. That was a wonderful review of Sen, and we're so grateful to have your support over the 2 years and counting now. And I think when we look at where we've come and where we're going, as Peter said, we're not going anywhere. This is still unfinished business because we want to affect positively the health of as many horses in Australia. And that's by educating horse owners of the correct feeding principles for their physiology and making the best quality products that we can make.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts, Bryan. And if any of our listeners are listening to this podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple, please share it with your family and friends. So the only way the message gets out is if you're actually sharing it with your, with your riding partners or whoever else you might be in contact with.
Yep, and it is lunchtime, Pete, and I think there is a gin in the fridge.
It's lunchtime, Bryan. It's too early.
But we'll probably cheers to that at lunch, Pete, with another 100 episodes. Hopefully we survive, and we can't thank everyone enough for their support.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.